because that's how they got to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Jacob Beck and Kathy Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and plenty to get to over the next 2 hours. Usually Luke Johnson is with us at 1:15. He's talking to the Saints right now, so he's not going to join us 15 minutes from right now. He will join us at straight up 2 o'clock, so 1 hour from now we'll have the latest from Saints Minicamp. Paul Mainieri is having his press conference, being introduced as the head coach at South Carolina later. And I know that you've gotten a lot of that story, but I do think that some of the quotes that he gave to a radio station yesterday are interesting, especially to those of us here in Baton Rouge. So I'll get to some of that at the bottom of hour number one. The Big 12 is going to become the All-State 12. They're going to get a lot of money for it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I got College World Series thoughts as that gets underway 24 hours from right now up there in Omaha, Nebraska. And Alvin Kamara left Saints minicamp today due to contract thoughts. I'll give some of my thoughts on that at 2:30. We're going to start today with the Saints as well as they're wrapping up mandatory minicamp. And this is not sound from the last 24 hours. In fact, this is sound from a few days ago, but we haven't had time to get to it with all the baseball transfer portal stuff and LSU football and a lot of things that we've gotten to. And we hadn't gotten to this sound from Chris Olave. And to me, Chris Olave is such a vital piece to what the Saints are going to do offensively this year. I think it's a trap. Maybe you don't think it's a trap. I think it's a trap that we, as people that cover the Saints, Saints fans, people that are interested in the Saints, that are watching the Saints, that are analyzing the Saints, look at Clint Kubiak and immediately go, what do the 49ers do? That's what the Saints are going to do. And I think that's a trap because the 49ers and the Saints are not the same team. Their offensive lines aren't the same. Their weapons aren't the same. It's not apples to apples. Yesterday, I talked about some of the things I thought we could really rely on with a new offensive coordinator. Things like formations and motions. That stuff you're going to see. As far as execution and statistics and functionality of the offense, that's on Clint Kubiak to kind of adapt to what the Saints are. Alvin Kamara has had a great career in the NFL. I'm not going to find anybody in the NFL that's going to take Alvin Kamara over Christian McCaffrey in 2024. I think they're fairly similar players. McCaffrey is an all-pro. Kamara has been hurt a bunch. I don't think Deebo Samuel can be compared to anybody in the league. No one plays like Deebo Samuel. He's a wrecking ball of a human who's as good after the catch as anybody in the league. They hand him the ball. They get him the ball on screens. He does stretch the field. He works the he's a phenomenal player, and that's not a knock on the Saints. They don't have Deebo Samuel. I don't know if anybody has somebody that looks like Deebo Samuel. George Kittle is a prototype at tight end, and I don't think the Saints have that, especially now that Juwan Johnson's gone down with an injury. We'll talk to Luke about that. Now, the 49ers don't have anybody like Taysom Hill either, who takes direct snaps and can throw the ball down the field and is really fast and helps you in short yardage, and that's a different wrinkle the Saints have that San Francisco doesn't have. But when I look at the Saints and I try to figure out what their offense is going to look like, Olave's got to be right in the middle of it. He's got to be a star. If the Saints, in my opinion, are going to win the division, one, they're going to have to run the ball better by a long shot. And two, Olave is going to have to be a star. And he can be. This is, by just about anybody's estimation, a draft hit that the Saints made a couple of years ago. And he's looked really good. But he's got to be great this year for the Saints offense to come out of what felt like the Stone Ages at times last year into the modern offense that's super productive. And Chris Olave met with the media a few days ago. And the first thing that we're going to hear about is the shoulder injury that's given him a little bit of trouble. What does he have to say about the progress there? Do we have it? Beck's looking at the TV screen. Olave on his tweaked shoulder.
Oh, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just doing treatment every day, trying to get better. I heard it in the weight room a little bit, but it's just been in the training room trying to get right.
So that's not significant at all. It's a guy that we're a long way away from training camp. We're a long way away from preseason games. We're a long way away from the first game. Nothing to worry about with the shoulder. Now, Olave spoke to his excitement with the new offense.
I love it, man. It's a great offense for the playmakers that we have, the West Coast offense that San Francisco ran. So we got a lot of playmakers since my first year, so it's to be able to use them. And with a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of different things that we haven't ran in the past, they bring here, so I'm excited.
And there you hear it, the pre-snap motion. I mean, that's the most obvious thing that you're absolutely going to see from the Saints. And he labeled it West Coast offense. I realize that Clint Kubiak was on the West Coast. I don't know if we can directly descend this offense from Bill Walsh, but if you're talking about a short and intermediate passing game, I think Olave is the best option that the Saints have in that way. Shaheed still gives you the opportunity to go over the top and make crazy plays, game-changing plays, and that's going to be his role in this offense because he runs like no one else runs in this offense. But if you're talking about getting the ball out, rhythm passing, timing passing, short stuff, intermediate stuff, Olave's got to be a star there, and he kind of talked about actually what his game brings to the new offense.
Just being more explosive, probably more yards per catch with the space that he's putting us into. The more yards at the catch, more explosive plays for not just only me, but she and AK and Taysom. So I'm excited to be able to be in the system.
Yards after the catch is something you absolutely can scheme for because we remember in this market last year, LSU realized they weren't getting enough yards after catch. If you'll remember here, we heard oftentimes from Mike Denbrock and from the wide receivers, last year, which would be 2022, we were really good at catching the ball with our backs to the end zone. Hitch routes, stop routes, balls that were completable, very high percentage throws, short throws that worked and were efficient, but did not create big plays. And they said, we're going to work on getting some yards after catch and creating some space and then getting our playmakers in that space and getting the ball delivered on time. That's absolutely something you can work on. It's not, look, nobody does it quite like Deebo Samuel where you're knocking guys off your quads 20 yards down the field. That's a bit of a different thing to scheme for. But you can do it, and I think the Saints are going to absolutely look into creating some more explosive plays with all of those guys as playmakers, and Olave kind of pointed to that. Now, Michael Thomas, I don't know how much of a leader he was in the Saints offense. I think at times, he was more of a issue in the locker room than a leader. But again, I'm not there, so I don't know day to day. I know what he tweets. I know what he says in press conferences. I know those type of things. I don't know about practice. I don't know about in the film room. I don't know about pregame in the huddle. I don't know exactly what his leadership role was, but certainly he was the elder statesman in that way because he had been around for a very, very long time. Now, Michael Thomas is not there. And Rashid Shaheed's still kind of a new kid on the block, as kind of is Olave. When you talk about the receivers, it's a pretty young group that New Orleans has now, and Olave talked about taking maybe a little bit more vocal role now that Michael Thomas has moved on.
It's not really. Everybody kind of grown in the NFL, so it's just on you to be able to have that standard. Like I said, I just try to do that, lead by example. I'm not really outspoken, but just lead by example, working hard, trying to dominate every rep, and hopefully they follow after that.
He's saying all the right things, and I think he's doing all the right things. He was out there at mandatory minicamp and kind of working a little bit through some shoulder issues. Again, and I feel like I drop this caveat in all the time when I'm talking about the Saints, but I do realize it, so I want to address it. Like, I don't have a ton of phenomenal, glowing things to say about the Saints at this point. When I do have something positive to say, I will say it. Olave is reason for optimism. I think he can be as good a receiver as there is in the NFC South. Mike Evans has been phenomenal for a very, very long time. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's also on the back end of his career. You look at Carolina. I mean, they've got a couple of guys who've got some skins on the wall, but are they all pros? No. Atlanta's got weapons, no doubt about it, but I think Olave can be as good a wide receiver as there is in the NFC South. It's incumbent upon Clint Kubiak and Derek Carr to make sure he gets the ball enough, because the goal in any offense is to make sure your best guy has the football. And the Saints don't have Christian McCaffrey, and they don't have Deebo Samuel, and they don't have George Kittle. You could toss Brandon Ayuk's name in there, and I think the Saints do have Brandon Ayuk. I think he's right here in Chris Olave, and that's going to have to be a massive focal point for this Saints team as they move forward into this 2024 season. Saints minicamp has wrapped up. We will hear from Luke Johnson about 50 minutes from right now. Dennis Allen met with the media today. Clint Kubiak met with the media today. We'll get to some of that sound tomorrow. It's going on right now, and we don't have time to get to it. I'm sure Matt will have it later on in his show. But we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive on the Saints and all of wrapping up minicamp coming up on tomorrow's show. But I also have some thoughts in the second hour about Alvin Kamara, who left minicamp today, and the reports are that it's due to a contract situation. So I'll give some of my thoughts on where the Saints go from here. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's Market, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll step aside when we come back. I've got a story that I don't think anybody on this station is going to hit today, so I'll go ahead and hit on it. I don't think you might learn something. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
A huge shout out from the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions to their friends at LeBlanc and Fresina Builders. I told you about the Parade of Homes where Audio Video Security Solutions won an award. They won Vendor of the Year at the Parade of Homes. Well, also another award was given out in terms of the top house from 1.2 to 1.5 million in the Parade of Homes, and that was from the folks at LeBlanc and Fresina. They were good enough to let Mitchell Fisher and the crew over at Audio Video Solutions come on in. If you don't know what capabilities you may have in terms of the audio and video systems in your home and what your home entertainment system can be, just have Audio Video Security Solutions come out and show you. They do an awesome job of walking you through the process. I am technologically illiterate. Mitchell Fisher and his team came in and said, this is kind of what we can do. We can put speakers here. We can put speakers here. You can control them all via your app. We can hook up your smart TV right here. All of your apps are right there. They gave me this customized remote that's got all my apps on it right there on the remote, so I don't have to go to a home page and look around. It just makes life a lot easier if you don't know what the heck you're doing technologically like I don't. So go to Audio Video Security Solutions website. It's avssla.com. Check it out. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR, and you can see some of the capabilities they have both indoor and outdoors. The summer months are absolutely upon us. Mitchell Fisher's cell phone, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. LSU lands another pitcher out of the transfer portal, so what roster holes remain? We'll discuss. And Saints wrap up minicamp. Talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Moving right along here on this Thursday, working towards the weekend on The Hunt Palmer Show. Glad you're hanging out with us. You know, we do 10 hours a day here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge of local radio, and we spend a lot of time talking about LSU, and we spend a lot of time talking about the Saints. Spend some time on the Pels, and there are some national stories that seep in, a lot of SEC talk as well. But a lot of the time, we're covering the same topics. A lot of time, we're using similar sound bites, and it just depends on when you're in the car, when you're out of the car, what you catch and what you don't. If you listen to us for 10 straight hours during the day, like, you're going to catch a lot of recycled stuff, just the way it works, because we're going to talk about what you care about. I could sit here and give you a long talk about the NL Central later today. You don't care. So
I care,
well, I do too, but most don't. So we spend a lot of time talking about similar stuff. I'm going to bet that I'm the only guy on this station today that runs this topic, because it's not necessarily like breaking news, but it is local, and I find it interesting. So if you are listening right now, you're probably catching something fresh today. I was looking online and saw some tweets, both from On3 and ESPN, that highlighted some really, really good things around LSU basketball recruiting. And when you look back at Matt McMahon's tenure here in Baton Rouge, it really is strong in terms of high school recruiting. He came in, and we famously know the story, like, he showed up and there was nobody here. Imwani was in the portal. He ended up coming back. Everybody else was gone. And he managed, out of the high school ranks in that first class, with the NCAA cloud here and Will Wade having just been fired and the whole storm that was brewing in Baton Rouge, and he signed Tyrell Ward, a 5-star, who was number 27 in the country, Jalen Reed, a 4-star, who was number 62 in the country, and he brought in Sean Phillips and Cornelius Williams, who were 3-stars. Sean Phillips actually showed some real promise at the end of his freshman year, but those guys ended up moving on. But it was a top 25 class in the country. On3 had it ranked number 24 in the country. It included 2 guys in the top 62 in the country in just complete chaos in Baton Rouge. So you get your feet on the ground. In 2023 from the high school ranks, he brings in Corey Chest, who was a 4-star, number 103 in the country. We don't know what kind of player Corey Chest is going to be, but thought of as a top 100 player by a couple of different services and a 4-star recruit. And then he brought in a 3-star in Mike Williams, who I think is a hit. I've really liked the way Mike Williams has played early in his career in terms of shooting the basketball. He was asked to do some things early on last year because Jalen Cook wasn't here that he probably wasn't supposed to be doing at that point in his career. But I think he's got a chance to be a really strong player at LSU. So that class included 2 top 120 players and one who I think was probably a little underrated in Mike Williams. And then you look at this class that he just brought in from the high school ranks. And from On3, it's number 12 in the country. From ESPN, number 10 in the country. With Victorious Miller, a 4-star guard, number 56 in the country. Curtis Givens, a 4-star point guard, number 60 in the country. And Robert Miller, a 4-star 5-man, number 38 in the country. So 3 top 60 players in the country in this class. If you look at those 3 high school classes, on this roster in 2024-2025, this coming season, he's going to have 5 top 65 high school players on the roster. Tyrell Ward, Jalen Reed, Victorious Miller, Curtis Givens, and Robert Miller. He'll have 7 top 120 players if you include Corey Chest and Mike Williams in all that. That's impressive. Like, we felt like that Matt McMahon could probably coach X's and O's. He's won a ton of games early in his coaching career, which probably suggests he's doing a good job with X's and O's. You're not going to recruit a bunch of blue chips to Murray State. Yes, I've heard of Ja Morant. The name has crossed my vision. I'm fairly aware of who that is, and I understand that gives you a pretty sizable leg up when you're coaching in that league with that guy. But he won a lot without Ja Morant, before and after. He won a lot with Juice Hill and KJ Williams and Trey Hannibal in that group without Ja Morant. Like, so it stands to reason, like, he's probably a pretty good X's and O's basketball coach. And it stands to reason at that level, he probably did a pretty good job of finding guys who were lower recruited, plugging them into the system, developing them, and creating really good college basketball players out of lowly recruited players. That part of the equation doesn't really matter at LSU. Like, yeah, it's nice to get Mike Williams and have him look like a really good player, but if you're going to compete with Alabama and compete with Kentucky and compete with Arkansas and Tennessee and Auburn, you're going to have to get 4- and 5-star dudes, none of which were even going to visit you at Murray State. So that part was a variable and something that we had to kind of wait on. And then you had to see how he was going to recruit in the waters with these teams. And I would suggest, looking at 3 years of data, like, this is pretty good. To have 7 top 120 players, 5 top 65 players coming in to this team and having held on to them. Tyrell Ward and Jalen Reed haven't left. Mike Williams didn't leave. We'll see what Corey Chest is, but like, that to me is encouraging. That he's, 1, getting these guys, and 2, keeping them around. And I would also suggest that Tyrell Ward showed improvement last year. It'd be hard to suggest that he didn't. I thought Jalen Reed got better last year. And I hope that Corey Chest kind of shows that same type of progression. We won't know because we don't know what he was when he came in, but hopefully he helps. And then Mike Williams, I think you can count on to be a really good guard for you. We'll see what Victorious Miller, Curtis Givens, and Robert Miller are, but they're highly recruited dudes. And then to add on to this is another layer to this conversation. In 2025, I'm going to guess a lot of y'all aren't aware of this. One of the best players in the country is actually in state. That never happens. There's never a 5-star player in the state of Louisiana. Javonte Smart was a really good player. Skylar Mays was fairly highly recruited. I mean, there have been some. Brandon Sampson had some acclaim. But, like, having a 5-star dude, that just doesn't happen.
Robert Williams, was he a 5-star?
Robert Williams was not a 5-star.
He was pretty close,
He was a good player, and he obviously went to A&M. He was from my neck of the woods up there. I don't remember him being a 5-star. We certainly had, who's the kid that ended up at Western Kentucky with Stansbury and then played for the Knicks? I can't think. He was from New Orleans.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
And I can't think of his name. Like that some have been 5-star, but it doesn't happen very often. And all of a sudden, you look at Chris Sinek, who is a 5-star. On3's got him as the number 6 player in the nation. He's 6'10", 210 pounds, plays at Newman for what was Randy Livingston before he got fired. And he went up to the NBPA top 100 camp and Jamie Shaw, who does basketball recruiting 4-on-3, named him the MVP of the camp. On-3's got him number 6 in the country. And that's a guy that the On-3 recruiting prediction machine says right now it's Houston and LSU with a leg up. You can pull that guy in. That changes the equation a little bit, because what have I been saying for 2 years about Matt McMahon? Like, you better have pros. Will Wade won at elite level because he had Cam Thomas and Trendon Watford and Skylar Mays. Like, these guys are playing in the NBA. Yeah, it helps to have Darius Days and Emmett Williams, and Tremont Waters didn't make it in the NBA, but he was a hell of a college. And like, you got to have some of those guys as well. But you need guys that are going to play minutes in the NBA. And if you look at a guy that's ranked 6 in the country by On3 and Chris Senek, like, you'd assume like that's probably a guy who could have an NBA future. And that's where this has got to come from. You have to supplement it from the transfer portal. You got to go get dudes that can help that are 22 years old, and that'll be part of the equation. Matt McMahon's already said, I want to be old, but there's also a huge benefit to getting guys in early. We've talked about this from a baseball perspective. We've talked about this from a football perspective. You know what Brian Kelly thinks of it, and the same thing applies, I think, to basketball. You're going to get 3 or 4 guys out of the portal every single year, but the more guys you can have in for a long time, the better. And to me, while we all want the basketball program to ascend to another level than it is right now, you look at what he's done in the high school recruiting ranks, and like, that's tough to argue against. I'm not saying we're about to knock on Duke's door, but I'm happy with the high school recruiting. Now it's about development. Now it's about retention. Now it's about coaching them on the floor with X's and O's. I'm hopeful that LSU basketball can come back. It was really fun for that 3-4 years where LSU was a tournament team every year, was in the top 4 or 5 in the SEC every year, and was putting guys in the NBA draft. That's what we hope is coming for basketball. It's been slow, and I knew it was going to be like that, but hopefully that time is coming pretty quickly. So cool deal there for Matt McMahon, as his signing class ranked 10th by ESPN, and then Chris Senek, who's in the next signing class, all of a sudden in the top 10 nationally and the MVP of a big-time camp here this summer. Very cool stuff for LSU and Louisiana basketball. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. When we come back, man, Paul Mainieri, you can always count on him to say exactly what he's thinking, and he certainly did that on the radio yesterday. We'll tell you what he had to say and what it means for us here in Baton Rouge. That's coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I have a 2.5-year-old. He takes a bath every evening. He is a maniac in the bathtub. There are 405,000 toys. There's bubbles everywhere. Yesterday, he literally took a bucket of water out and poured it all over my shirt and pants. Well, it's chaos in there. So we need the bathtub. You may not have a 2-year-old who is complete chaos at 6:45 every evening. And if you don't ever use that bathtub, then get rid of it. Might be dirty, dingy, old, unsightly, not usable. Like, just get rid of it. Tub to shower conversion. One Bath and Closets does this kind of stuff all the time. They take out that tub that you never use, put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. It changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, changes the functionality of the bathroom. You don't have a 2-year-old to worry about, so you're all good. And you get David Duvall and his team to get in there and get it done. It's One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. You get that free consultation from the website. You can certainly see reviews from their satisfied customers. You can see pictures of their fantastic work. And again, get that consultation at the website. It's One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty.
Sandegriff, join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. We'll get you up to date on what's going on at the U.S. Open, and it's the opening day of the College World Series. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our Rad Dad contest is back, presented by Roaming Shot Outdoors and Shooting Range. Upload a picture of your dad doing dad things to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win him a Blackstone grill with all the accessories, 1 long-range shooting school class for 2 from Roaming Shot Outdoors and Shooting Range, steaks from Chris's Specialty Foods, a Hawk Soap gift basket, and a full throttle package from Finish Line Haircuts. We'll be choosing a winner tomorrow, June 14th. Happy Father's Day from Roaming Shot Outdoors and Shooting Range and 1045ESPN.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
In a couple of hours, Paul Mainieri will be announced as the new head baseball coach at South Carolina, signed a 5-year contract to be the head man there in Columbia. And that's not news to you, and we're not going to rehash that part of it. But Paul Mainieri did go on to 106.1 FM down in New Orleans last night and spoke on the All Access show about his decision to take this job. And I read the story with the quotes, and I couldn't help but smile and go, that's the Paul Mainieri I know. He's going to answer your question truthfully, which rarely happens in sports interviews. You get a lot of cliches, a lot of coach speak, a lot of half-truths, a lot of playing coy, gamesmanship. That is sports interviews. And Paul Mainieri has just never really been like that. When you ask about an injury, he tells you exactly what the injury is, what the rehab timetable is, how it happened. He goes into immense detail. He's a walking HIPAA violation at this point. When you ask about a game, he tells you about a play that didn't go his team's way, and sometimes that's construed as throwing a player under the bus. Whatever you want to call it, he's going to give you the truth. And he was asked some questions about taking this job, and he went into detail about a lot of things. And I was fascinated by some of his answers. And I'm going to kind of jump around in the story over at CrescentCitySports.com as opposed to kind of going chronologically, but I'm going to hit them in kind of the order that they struck me. And one was the process here. Ray Tanner let go of Mark Kingston a week and a half ago. And he called Paul Mainieri to talk about some of the candidates that he had interviewed. And Paul Mainieri talks about this, and he said at the very end, he, meaning Tanner, said, "What about you?" And I said, "What about me?" And then 24 hours later, I said I would do it. And that's what you've got here. Mainieri said it started on Friday, and 24 hours later, I'd accepted the job. I just had the itch. I was born to be a coach, and I felt like I had to retire a little earlier because of the health issues that I had, specifically my neck pain. I stepped away, and each year I started to feel a little bit better. I've been out for 3 years now, and I didn't know if anybody would want me again, but Ray Tanner reached out, and South Carolina is, he said, the one place I would go. Now, this is the part that gets interesting because none of that is earth-shattering stuff or stuff that you wouldn't expect to surface. We know that Paul Mainieri stepped away because of the health issues, and now we understand how this process happened and how he accepted the job. But there are questions about bringing in a soon-to-be 67-year-old man who's in the Hall of Fame and kind of has a legacy put together and how he feels about taking on this new challenge at this point. And for us here in Baton Rouge, this market, this is the part I think that resonates the most. This is a quote from Paul Mainieri. The only negative in being in the SEC is with LSU. Outside of when we play LSU, I'll be rooting for LSU to win every game. I hope the people of Louisiana aren't mad at me. It's not like I'm Benedict Arnold here. I wanted to get back into coaching, and the LSU job is filled. This was the next best option for me. That's kind of a telling thing. And he would continue on a little bit later and say that, I want to make sure that I'm reading this properly. It's right here. There's a lot of mixed emotions. Baton Rouge has been my home. Louisiana's been my home. I loved working for LSU, 15 years as a coach there and 3 more as an ambassador. Things just kind of fell in my lap this weekend. I will never lose my love for LSU or for the state of Louisiana. In fact, when I'm done coaching at South Carolina, I signed a 5-year contract, and I can't imagine going any farther than that. Whenever the time comes, I'll be moving back to Louisiana, and it will be my home for the rest of my life. We're keeping our residence in Louisiana, and for now, I'm ready for a new challenge, and I'm highly motivated to succeed at a high level. And that's the part, as a South Carolina fan, I would go, okay, this guy loves LSU, has been an ambassador for LSU. He's keeping his house in Louisiana. He's getting ready to move back there. He's saying right now on the record, I'm only going to coach there for 5 years. Like, none of this stuff is what I would expect a coach taking a job to say. I would expect the coach to say, man, I had a great run at LSU. It was fantastic. But I'm so fired up to be a South Carolina Gamecock. I'm so fired up to get my boots on the ground and to get this thing running, and we're going to compete for championships as quickly as possible. We've got this new system that allows for transfers. We're going to hit that very aggressively, and we're going to put a great team on the field next spring. And I'm sure Paul Mainieri feels all that, but he also just said, like, 5 years as long as I got, and I'm going back to Louisiana when it's over. And that just kind of feels like I just want to coach. And not necessarily that I'm so fired up to lead South Carolina. I'm putting words in Paul Mainieri's mouth here. I'm aware of that. It's a talk show, and that's the way I feel. And maybe South Carolina is just fine with everything that Paul Mainieri just said, because I think everybody thinks of Steve Spurrier as Florida's coach, and I think everybody thinks of Lou Holtz as Notre Dame's coach, and they were just fine having those guys come in and get the thing moving forward really for the first time ever. Lou Holtz came in at 62 years old and coached that program for 5 years, and he did things that hadn't been done there in maybe ever. It was a doormat in college football, and he made them relevant. They won some games. And Spurrier made his name at Florida. Fun and gun, Heisman Trophy, whole deal. But he came to South Carolina at 60 years old and almost put in a decade and did things that no one's ever done at South Carolina. And then he went right back to Florida and put on the Gator shirt and was an ambassador for them. And maybe they're completely fine with that because there is history that says we hired proven coaches past their prime, but they came in, they did what they do, they won stuff, and that's all we care about. And maybe that's the case. But it just felt like something you wouldn't necessarily say. But as I said, Paul always does that. The other piece that was relevant for LSU is he talked about some of the teams that he laments the ending on. And he talked about the 2017 team. That's the one that got to the final against Florida. It was Kramer Robertson and Greg Dykman and Alex Lang and Jared Poche and the Jordan twins and Papirski, and you certainly remember that team. They beat Oregon State twice. But Eric Walker got hurt, and he said the 2017 team was superb. Losing Eric Walker to an injury really hurt. It was a lot to overcome. We lost 2 close games in the finals to Florida, which had 3 first-round draft choices in their rotation. That one gnaws at me. The 2013 team went to Omaha with a 57-9 record, and it was an unbelievable team. I'll interject there. The 2013 team should have won it. They should have won it. They hit the ball really hard 3 or 4 times in that UCLA game, and it didn't go out of the ballpark. And a lot of people lament the non-bunt of Rape Rhymes that turned into a double play. I defended that one and still will to this day. You had the best contact hitter in the country at the plate. You had a closer in that does not throw overpowering stuff. It was Bard. He was a side armor. And Rafe hit a rocket. And if it goes a foot to the left, it's a double down the line. You got 2 in scoring position, and you're really cooking. And it just went into the glove. And then Bregman kicked one at shortstop. And all of a sudden, you lost Nola's start. If you didn't lose Nola's start, you were going to face North Carolina State in the next game. They had burned Carlos Rodon. I think LSU would have put themselves in the driver's seat. Somebody would have had to come back and beat Nola. That wasn't going to happen. LSU should have won it in 2013, and they just ran up against some unlucky stuff against UCLA, and it didn't happen. Then Paul continued in 2014. I thought we had the best team in the country the last 10 or 15 games. Houston scored 4 freak runs. We lost in extra innings and played our worst game the next night and didn't get out of the regional. That was Aaron's last game. He pitched great on Saturday. They won. They came back in Houston, beat them twice in that one. Then he talks about 2015 was also a fantastic team. Lang was a freshman on that team. So we had a great team, won like 54 games, but we couldn't beat TCU. Could have had 3 or 5 skins on the wall, but it wasn't meant to be. And I don't disagree with that. Some of those teams were fantastic, and I did not disagree with Paul Mainieri going with Alex Lang in that game going with Jared Poche in that game against TCU in the opener. It turned out Jared got 2 comebackers to the mound and couldn't throw it to first base. Lang was the ace, and they were going to hold him for Vanderbilt in that next game. And it turns out that it didn't work out that way, so they threw Lang against Fullerton. He beat them. He was undefeated that year. But I thought it was a reasonable move to go to Alex Lang second in that College World Series because you had such a proven veteran in Jared Poche to go in the first game. It just didn't work out. So Paul Mainieri said, the 2009 team will never be forgotten, but there were a couple more that missed hoisting that trophy just briefly. So, again, Paul Mainieri is going to be introduced here in a couple of hours as South Carolina's head coach. I don't know that we'll say a ton more about it. I'll certainly be interested in how Mainieri does, but the one other quote that I want to kind of go to there was that I'm not Benedict Arnold or anything. I don't think anybody feels that way. There's certainly a ton of animus toward Nick Saban based on how that worked out, and there was a ton of animus toward John Chavis leaving LSU for Texas A&M. And that kind of thing does exist, but not in Paul Mainieri's case. You can certainly find people that will quibble with the end of Paul Mainieri's run in Baton Rouge, and I'm not here to tell you that's a ludicrous thing to say. I gave my thoughts on it a couple of days ago, and I thought the horses were coming offensively and the pitching wasn't in great shape after a couple of years where the pitching was really good and the offense wasn't great. There was some wobbling for sure, but I don't know that LSU was that far off when he moved on. He retired because he was in a ton of pain. And it wouldn't have surprised nobody if he would have continued sitting up there at Alec Box Stadium in an LSU golf shirt and his sunglasses on next to Skip and Woodward. And I ran into Coach in the hotel lobby after LSU won Game 3 last year. I actually thanked him for the players that he did recruit and develop that were on that team. He loves LSU. But he just is itching to do this until he can't anymore. And it looks like 5 years is what he's going to give South Carolina. That would have hurt your ability to recruit at a certain time. Now with the transfer portal, I think everybody's kind of comfortable with the way things stand. And if you need to move on, you move on. But guys that he signs, I think will be fine with it right now. But I just thought it was fascinating that still, even taking a new job and having a new circumstance, that Paul Mainieri is just going to tell you how it is. And I've always appreciated that as a fan and as a journalist. And it's furthering to my point of I don't really care if you say nothing like Jay Johnson generally does, or if you say everything like Paul Mainieri generally does. What does your team do on the field? And Paul Mainieri's teams win a lot, and Jay Johnson's win a lot, so it is what it is. But I thought that was fascinating stuff, and I thought I'd pass it along to you. Again, he'll be announced as the head coach here with a press conference in the next couple of hours. We got one segment to go here in hour number 1. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's Markets. When we come back, big money in the Big 12. But how long is it going to be the Big 12? All that is changing in the landscape of college sports, and we'll talk about it to close out hour number 1 here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Are you in a little bit of pain? Kind of like Paul Mainieri was in some pain. Maybe you've been in a car accident. Maybe you tweaked something over on the golf course. Maybe you're a youth athlete that's been banged up. Pain's inevitable. Evolve Physical Therapy is here to help with all of it. Robbie Bolton has spent almost 2 decades as a physical therapist, and I can promise you this, your experience with Evolve is going to be different than a lot of your physical therapy experiences. It's going to be very hands-on. It's going to be very firsthand. It's not going to be a situation where the physical therapist says, oh, what hurts? Here's some exercises. You can handle that at home, and then goes and fills out paperwork. That's not happening in Evolve Physical Therapy. They're going to be with you all the way through your sessions, whether it's the cupping, dry needling, whether it's massages, scraping, isokinetic testing, soft tissue manipulation. All of that can be done over at Evolve Physical Therapy. Remember, just because the doc says, yeah, go on downstairs to do your PT, doesn't mean that's where you have to do it. You can choose where your physical therapy is done. And if you have not had a good physical therapy experience, then go see Evolve. As Robbie Bolton always says, once I see you, I will see you forever. Again, whether you're a youth athlete or a 65-year-old who's dealing with everyday pain and wants to be a little bit more active but can't because of that discomfort, Evolve Physical Therapy right there at Starring near Highland Road can help you out. Check them out online, evolvept.com, evolvept.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045espn.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. LSU lands another pitcher out of the transfer portal. So what roster holes remain? We'll discuss. And Saints wrap up minicamp. Talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Rouse has been kind of a godsend for my wife. She does not like going to the grocery store. And I do, so I'm good with it. But she does not like spending the time in the grocery store. She dilly-dallies, takes forever to figure out what she's going to do. With the Rouse's app, she can just do that all on her phone and then wheel in and pick it up. And that just makes her life easier. So if you're indecisive and can't get out of the grocery store like my wife, Rouse's app. It's right there for you. If you're like me and just like a nice decisive shopping experience, you can go in the Rouse's like I do. But either way, they bring you our Thursday shows, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk Saints with Luke Johnson coming up in 10 minutes. Big money coming into the Big 12, and it's not going to be the Big 12 very much longer. It sounds like it's going to be the All-State 12 because the naming rights to the conference are likely going to be sold for between $30 and $50 million to Allstate, the insurance company. We talked about putting patches on the jerseys last week and how I'm averse to that. If we're going to do naming rights, I think I'm good with naming the conference. Like, that doesn't show up on the jersey. Well, I guess they could put an Allstate patch on the jersey, too. That's where this is going. The school's going to sell the right to one chest, and then the conference is going to make you put the other one on. That's where I didn't even think about that until I started talking on the air. That's where it's headed back. We're going to have the fast food chain right here, and then we're going to have the insurance carrier on the other side, and that's how we get to multiple patches.
Relax.
Then all of a sudden, we got lots of things. You got to put it on the field, and then we're given the stadium naming rights.
It's going to be okay.
It is going to be okay. I'm fully aware of that, but just not the way old school Hunt would like to do it. But it sounds like, speaking of money infusions, that private equity is going to get involved here really, really quickly. And it sounds like there's already a real chance that the Big 12, the All-State 12, are going to have a private equity company come in and infuse about $800 million to $1 billion into the league. And I'm curious because I'm not smart enough to know about this. Once again, I'm pretty good at figuring out who can be a starting pitcher one day or whether or not I'd bunt in that situation. But I'm not great at private equity taking over conferences. And I'm just curious how much decision-making power you get within that conference if you're given $980 million to the league. Do you get to now determine where the conference basketball tournament is? Do you get to determine who's playing in bowl games? I'm curious what that nets you in terms of decision-making power if you're going to infuse that much cash. Look, the Big 12 doesn't really have a choice because you've lost your two biggest name brands. Your television rights aren't worth as much because you don't have those brands. And you're falling further and further behind year over year while the schools in the Big Ten and the SEC continue to shovel in cash with their media rights. So you can't catch up in a traditional sense. You have to allow someone to come in and give you a bunch of cash. And the schools will reap some of the benefits of that. And that's all well and good. It's always good for additional revenue streams to come in and schools to have access to that. My question would be, okay, but what's in it for you, private equity guy? And I got to think it's not going to be, we'll just write the check and sit back. Y'all just figure it out. Well, y'all are fine. We just want to give you the money. It generally doesn't work out that way. Generally, Joe Money wants some decision-making power. And I don't know what that looks like. I'm just not in that world enough to have a good sense of it. But what I can tell from sitting back and looking is if the Big 12 does this and they get $1 billion, what's stopping the SEC from going, we'd kind of like $2.5 billion? Because we got all the schools that matter here, and $2.5 billion sounds good. And you've got private equity companies that have hundreds of billions. So it's like, well, okay, we want the biggest brand in college sports. This is clearly an untapped market for private money. Somebody's going to get into it with the Big 12. Well, that's child's play compared to what goes on in the Big 10 and the SEC. So if you've got decision-making power in the Big 12, what happens in the SEC? And what happens to the vote of the school presidents and the athletic directors and the coaches? And is it just one vote that goes to the private equity company? Or, hey, we got a bigger piece of this pie than all these other schools. We've given you this much money. We want more. And I just don't know how far that goes. I'm not in corporate America. I sit down and run out 8 segments for a radio show. try to sell some ad time. Not generally. Generally on Tuesdays, I don't work in $800 million increments. So I'll leave that to the people that do. But it's a new frontier. And I promise that it's not going to be just the Big 12 that makes it happen. It's just the first domino to fall. And I think it's interesting. I'm just going to have to see the result before I can critique it, analyze it, and comment on it. We'll see. Thursday shows brought to you by Rouse's. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can certainly find us as well as on YouTube. Hunt on Saints is our Saints YouTube channel. I talked about Chris Olave and gave some sound from him back in the first segment. LSU basketball recruiting, top 10 in the country by ESPN, plus maybe top 10 player in the country from the state of Louisiana. Paul Mainieri on his quotes about LSU and leaving for South Carolina, and then some Big 12 talk as well. Come back after Sports Center. Luke Johnson puts a bow on Saints minicamp. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile on the for customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. First round of the U.S. Open today. Patrick Cantlay, the leader after a 565. Tiger Woods shot 74 today. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports J.J. Redick will interview for the Lakers head coaching job this weekend. R.J. Williams says this could be a tough first coaching job for Redick.
Do you have the type of clout in the locker room because you're coming off doing a podcast with LeBron? Are these your thoughts or are these the thoughts of LeBron? What happens in the first moment coming to a huddle and I'm playing, LeBron says, no, we're not going to do that. And LeBron draws, well, he does that all the time. Like, how does that affect the way other players look at you as a head coach? That's what I worry about.
Jay Williams on Greeny. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight in Edmonton. The Stars have a 2-0 series lead over the Oilers. Coverage at 8 Eastern on ABC. The Falcons will lose their 5th-round pick next year and pay a $250,000 fine for violating the league's anti-tampering policy while pursuing quarterback Kirk Cousins and others. The Eagles were cleared of wrongdoing in their signing of Saquon Barkley.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming on Friday. I'll tell you why the Mavs will have to make major changes if they want to win a title with Luka. It's unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's Markets. Rouse is, of course, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, who wrapped up mandatory minicamp this week. I'll take a break until training camp fires up in about 6 weeks or so. Luke Johnson will be there for all of it, and he's with us every single Thursday. Made some time for us later on because he had to do some interviews, actual real job work, but he's with us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, man. I consider this my real job, too, hon.
It's because we pay you so well, right?
That's right.
All right, let's talk about a few stories that developed over the last 24 hours. Juwan Johnson going to have some surgery and miss a little bit of time. What can you tell us, and how big an impact is that?
Yeah, well, it's really hard to tell how much time he's going to miss. I think Dennis Allen has kind of learned his lesson about providing some timelines for us, because they never seem to actually follow those timelines. Yeah, I think the feeling is generally that he should be ready by week 1. But he's going to miss some time in training camp for this, for sure. And, I think we've seen guys, it's hard to just go from not playing at all to not having any camp, to just playing in the game. So, I mean, they're going to have to find somebody who can fill that role in case he can't go, in case he's not ready, in case he's not ready to play the role they kind of envisioned for him. So, I think it's fairly significant. Even if he's going to be on the field for week 1, you have to have a guy who's going to be able to fill that kind of move tight end role that he does.
So who might that be?
Well, I think there's a couple guys on the team who, they're younger guys who they like. The undrafted rookie free agent Dallin Holker. A lot of people have kind of blown him up a little bit, and he's flashed. He flashed today. He made some really nice catches. He's clearly a talented pass catcher. But they need to see whether he can be a functioning NFL tight end. There's so much more that goes into that besides catching the football. He's a little undersized by their usual standards. He wasn't a very good blocking tight end at Colorado State. So, if they roll with him, they're going to have to deal with the drawbacks of having him in the lineup. I really like Michael Jacobson. He's the former college basketball player. I think he played at Iowa State and Nebraska. But you can see his athleticism when he's out there moving. And he's kind of in a similar vein, right? He's a pass first, like a pass catcher first, and he's still got a lot of room to grow as a blocker, but he's much bigger. He's like 6'6", and give you a little bit more there in terms of length on the field. So both of those guys are extremely unproven. There's a report out yesterday by Kat Terrell over at ESPN that said Jimmy Graham hasn't closed the door. Yeah, I don't know if you want Jimmy Graham out there playing like 40, 50 snaps a game, but there's going to be options. And the good news is that this isn't going to be something that's going to keep Juwan out all season.
How do you think Juwan does fit in to this offense? I think we all get kind of caught up in, well, what did San Francisco do? What did San Francisco do? And San Francisco had some real dudes on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, do you trust Juwan Johnson to be an upper-level tight end?
I don't know. It's a tough question. Like, if you would have asked me that same question last August, I would have said absolutely yes. He had an amazing training camp last year, and I think a lot of us were expecting a really big season out of him, and then it was just kind of a dud. He averaged less than 10 yards a catch. He's just kind of absent from the passing attack for most of the season, which is weird because throughout most of Derek Carr's tenure with the Raiders, he's throwing to the tight ends all the time. It just wasn't, the case last year in the Saints offense. It was really receiver heavy for the passing attack. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly how Juwan fits. When you look at what the San Francisco offense has been, obviously you look at George Kittle and George Kittle and Juwan Johnson are two completely different players. Juwan's like a field stretching seam tight end. He's not going to give you a lot after the catch. Whereas that's where kind of George Kittle eats. I think that's why Brock Bowers was really going to be an option for this team if he was available in the draft. Because it's such a weapon if you have a tight end who can get yards after the catch. I just don't think that's a forte for Juwan. I still think he's a good NFL player, though. I'm not sold yet on his fit in this scheme.
You all spoke with Marshawn Lattimore. We understand that there may have been differences there, but he did show up for mandatory minicamp. How happy is Marshawn Lattimore in New Orleans right now?
I think I would place that at out of 10, like a 6.5, 7. Yeah, I think he's happy. He's healthy, and I think really that he knows that this is a really important year for him because he's kind of fallen off just in terms of his reputation around the league. 3 years ago, I think it was generally agreed that he was probably one of the top 2 or 3 young corners in the NFL, and he was getting paid like it. But he's missed so much time the last 2 years that people aren't really considering him like that anymore. When the whole trade talk thing was going on with the Saints, some people were like, can they get a 5th rounder for him? We're talking about a guy who's making $20 million a year, who is one of the best young defensive players in the NFL the first couple of years of his career. So I think he's eager to prove himself again. But he's got to stay healthy. I think he missed 17 games the last 2 years. Off the top of my head, that might be wrong, but it's close. And when he was on the field, he was a little inconsistent. So he's got a lot to prove, I think, and I think it will only be beneficial for all parties involved if he stays healthy and has the year he's capable of. Because that means either the Saints are like, okay, he's still our guy, we can hang on to him, or if they decide to move on because they've got 3 pretty good corners behind him, then he's got trade value again. So it's just that is just so important that he doesn't have the sort of injuries that just keep him on the shelf for 8, 9, 10 weeks again.
Chatting with Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson. Alvin Kamara left. Reports are potentially that was contract related. Dennis Allen did not say that in his press conference, but what do you know about that situation?
Yeah, it definitely is contract related. I spoke to a league source just about the time practice was wrapping up, and Alvin wants a new contract. This is effectively the last year of his deal. Although he's under contract for next year, he's not guaranteed any money. They can move on from him relatively painlessly next year. He wants a new contract. I think he saw the deal that Christian McCaffrey just did with the 49ers, I think, and where it wasn't, I don't know if he's looking for Christian McCaffrey level money, but he saw, he got an extension. He's a running back approaching his 30th birthday. He got an extension where he's not making a lot more money, but he gets a little bit more security, a little bit more years in the deal. And I think that's kind of what Alvin is hoping to get, and he's kind of reaching an impasse with the Saints right now. So I think that's going to be something we're going to be paying a lot of attention to over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. I think it's going to be interesting to see, if this extends into training camp. If he's reporting for training camp or holding out. I don't know. I think anything's on the table right now.
I'll ask you 2 questions about that then. Do you believe the Saints will extend his contract?
I don't know. It's still too early for me to say that. The reality is that while there are a lot of issues that go into it, whether it was the offensive line play or the play calling or Alvin Kamara himself, the reality is he has not been the same player the last couple of years that he was when he was making 5 Pro Bowls to start his career. He's got, I think, in the last 3 seasons, 6 runs of 20-plus yards. His effectiveness as a receiver is kind of dipped since Drew Brees has left town. I think there's a lot that he has to prove, and he has an opportunity to do it in this new offense. I think everybody agrees that this can be really beneficial for a player like Alvin Kamara. But I think that's a risky proposition for the Saints. If you're a team that is strapped for cash, strapped for cap space rather, and you commit to a long-term deal for a running back who's going to turn 29 in a couple weeks, who hasn't been as good as he was when you initially signed him to that 5-year, $75 million extension. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and it's probably why Alvin is dipping out of practice today, because it's a really tough decision.
And so I think you kind of answered it, but would you do it?
I probably wouldn't at this stage. And I still think that Alvin's got a lot left in the tank, but I need to see it this year before I do it. I think you can. I don't think you have to lock him up before this year. I mean, he might hold out, but I need to see that he's still that player before I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to give you $16 million a year or whatever he's asking for. It's just that I don't really necessarily agree with the really super hot opinion of you have to have a running back who's 22 years old and they start to be bad when they're 25. I think Alvin has some different types of traits than your standard running back that you'd want in your offense. And I think he's still a really good player, but I do need to see it when you've kind of addressed some of the other problems within the offense.
We shall see. Luke, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks.
No problem, man. Talk to you all soon.
Luke Johnson, Saints beat writer for The Advocate, @by Luke Johnson for all your Saints content. They wrap up mandatory minicamp today, and we'll hear some Dennis Allen and Clint Kubiak sound coming up on tomorrow's show. I've got my thoughts on Alvin Kamara, and I'll give them to you at 2:30. If you have listened to me at all over the last 6 months, I think you'll know where that's headed, but we'll do that at 2:30 coming up. The College World Series cranks up tomorrow. I do have some thoughts on that. The wound of LSU's regional loss has kind of healed a little bit. I mean, not fully, but it's not as painful today, so I can start to talk a little bit more about some college baseball. We'll do that with one SEC team in action coming up tomorrow. Newsflash, I will not be pulling for them. We'll do that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. I love telling you about my friends over at Boudreaux's Electric. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. Now their son Justin has jumped in. He's helping them out as well as the sales manager. I tell you a lot of things about Boudreaux's Electrical. I tell you about the fact that they have full-time employees that do all of their installations and their maintenance. I tell you about the warranties that they have that come with their Generac generators. What I never tell you about Boudreaux's Electrical is that you can pay for some sort of VIP deal, because they don't have one, because all of their customers get VIP treatment. They're so easy to work with. They're so prompt with their service. They're able to monitor your generator remotely, so if there is an issue, they can send a technician out to deal with it, and you don't have to pay extra for that service. That's not the way they've done business for 4 decades down here in South Louisiana. Give them a call, 985-397-1562. Again, that's 985-397-1562. You can find them online, boudreauxelectrical.com. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have been running this show for 40 years. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that you can have that Generac generator before storm season puts you without power. Don't think about it when it's already happened. Think about it right now. Visit them at boudreauxelectrical.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road. We'll get you up to date on what's going on at the U.S. Open, and it's the opening day of the College World Series. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Ruffino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Strong Thursday at the U.S. Open for some guys searching their first career major. Patrick Cantlay out quickly with a 65, 5 under. He leads by himself. Ludwig Oberg, young star, has 4 under, and he is in the clubhouse as well. Matthew Pavone had a couple eagles on the front nine. He shoots 3 under. He will be long gone from this leaderboard by Saturday afternoon. Tony Finau, 2 under today. Rory McIlroy quickly out to a 2 under start through 5 holes. He is tied for 4th.
Your guy Sergio Hunt.
Yeah, super awesome, Sergio.
Yeah.
He played great today. He shot 69 with no bogeys. He had 17 pars and a birdie.
I think he'll be gone before
I hope
long
so.
as well.
I hope he misses the cut, quite frankly. I hope he shoots 103 tomorrow.
That would be
my sincere hope. I hope he's penalized multiple times for throwing clubs in bunkers and yelling at fans, and he's escorted off the premises is what I would enjoy personally. But we'll see. He played good today, shot 69. Sam Bennett shot 69 as well, young Texas A&M Aggie who was great at the Masters last year. Shot 61 on his round. It's been a really, really fun Thursday to watch. They've got the course in such good shape. You can hit the fairways. You can hit it at some of these pins. But if you miss, and it's a razor's edge, you can run off the green. You can putt it off the green. You can get behind this wiregrass. Like it's a good mix of some guys making some double bogeys and some guys making some birdies. And it's put a pretty quality leaderboard up there early on in this U.S. Open. All right, College World Series starts tomorrow. I know that we're all bummed out that LSU will not be there. That was it's just fun to think about how much stress was involved last year for that week and a half. But there won't be any stress for LSU fans this weekend. I'll spend my time pulling against SEC teams. Only one of them in action tomorrow. The team that beat LSU in the regional on the way to Omaha will open things up tomorrow. It'll be North Carolina and Virginia in an all-ACC battle. I was curious who North Carolina would start, DeCaro or Sprague. Of course, LSU saw both of them. Saw Sprague in the Saturday night game, the left-hander with a changeup, and then saw DeCaro to start that Monday game, the freshman with the good heater. Virginia hit DeCaro pretty good back in the regular season when they took 2 out of 3 from North Carolina. He went 6 innings in that start, gave up 6 hits and 5 earned runs, 3 walks and 5 strikeouts. Sprague pitched in that series as well. He threw 4 1/3, gave up 7 hits, but just 1 earned run, no walks and 5 strikeouts. I don't know what Coach is going to do. I was going to say Coach Fox. That's incorrect. He's been gone for quite some time. So it would be Coach Forbes, what he's going to do with the starting pitcher. But Brian O'Connor's been there a good bit and has a College World Series to his name. And I feel like might be in line to get a phone call from Texas if that job comes open. But I'm curious to see how this one goes in a conference affair. I personally think North Carolina is the second best team there. And I think if North Carolina and Tennessee win tomorrow, you're going to set up a matchup in Game 2, and the winner of that is, I think, likely going to go to the College World Series final. Now, of course, we know LSU beat Oregon State, who was the 1 seed to get there through the losers bracket. They beat Wake Forest last year to get through the losers bracket. It can happen. It happens all the time. But I feel like those are the best 2 teams. I am curious to see how North Carolina sets its pitching up starting tomorrow. Tennessee and Florida State will go in the nightcap. That should be a great one. Florida State has had a heck of a year under Link Jarrett. They went 17-12 in the ACC. They have blitzed through the regional and the super regional at 5-0. Y'all remember Game 1 against UConn where they won at 24-3 or whatever it was. They scored 34 runs in the 2 super regional games, and I think they got a chance against Tennessee. Tennessee's, call it Achilles heel, call it question mark, call it weakness, call it whatever you want. They don't have an ace. They did not ever replace Chase Dolander. And Chase Burns would have been that guy this year, but he moved on and went to Wake Forest. So they've kind of jumbled it up. They've had A.J. Causey go. They've had Drew Beam go. They've tried an opener. They've done a lot of different things, but none of it has really stuck. And while Tennessee does have some really quality arms coming out of the bullpen, Causey being one of them, I don't know what they're going to try to do to start. And Florida State can hit, man. And I think Florida State's got a chance to score some runs. Now, we know Tennessee can hit, but we talked about this back on Monday. They rely on the home run ball a lot, and that works really well at Lindsey Nelson. LSU's seen that firsthand. They hadn't won there in years. They got swept in Mainieri's last year, then they went back and got swept in the Super, and they got swept this year. So LSU hadn't won in Lindsey Nelson in forever, and a big reason for that is because Christian Moore and Blake Burke hit a bunch of homers. Kavaris Tears hits a bunch of homers. That's just what they do. And we know from looking at that stadium a ton last year in different days, it can play different on different days. And if you catch an evening tomorrow where the wind's blowing in and all those big flies that Tennessee hits don't go anywhere, can they vary their offense? I don't know a ton about Florida State pitching, and I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I know a lot about Tennessee pitching, but Florida State can do this. And if Florida State can win tomorrow, you put Tennessee really behind the 8 ball without a lot of really good starting pitching to try to come out of the loser's bracket. So I think before they throw a single pitch in Omaha for this College World Series, I want to suggest that this is a really, really, really strong field. You've got regional hosts, basically, in Florida, and Florida's got as much talent as anybody there. Now, some of that talent hasn't shown through. It hasn't been an awesome year for some of the guys they really counted on to have awesome years. Colby Shelton was supposed to be a star like he was a freshman at Alabama. He's been okay. Cade Kurland was incredible last year as a freshman at second base, and he's been mediocre this year. And we know what Kaggs is and Shellnut is and some of those guys. Like we saw that in the box earlier this year. But this is a loaded field. It does break my heart a little bit that you can take out a map of Louisiana. You can take out a map of America and write a small little circle in the southeast, and all the teams are in it. I'd really like it if UCLA was there, or Oregon State was there, or Stanford was there, or Long Beach was there. I'd really like it if some sort of Indiana showed up there, or something like that. But this is what it is. And it's as quality a field as you can have while understanding that it's regional as well. So we'll keep an eye on the Jell-O shot board. I don't know that I think anybody's going to get to 68,000. It could happen if a booster gets there and wants to just buy all 68,000, I suppose. But it's a great event. I'm bummed out we're not there. I'm bummed out I'm not in Omaha. Charlie and Jimmy, they had a pretty long run there, so they're probably okay with sitting one out, maybe going back next year. But I'm excited to watch. As of last week, like I was not handling things all that great. I did my radio hit in Shreveport last week on Wednesday, and they're like, "How you doing?" I was like, "Terrible." I hate it when the season ends. But I guess the one benefit to it coming to an end in the regional as opposed to the Super or in Omaha is by the time Omaha rolls around, I'm okay to take a deep breath, realize that LSU's not there, and watching some college baseball, which is my favorite sport. I don't know how you feel about it. There's probably a good sizable portion of you that looks at this and goes, LSU's out, I don't care. What? North Carolina, Virginia, wake me up when football season hits. And man, more power to you for that point of view. Probably the only really dumb point of view is when LSU loses and I'm too bitter to watch. If you don't care, that's one thing, but I'd be too bitter to watch. I'm not too bitter to watch now. It's been 2 weeks. I can lock in. I want Florida State to win desperately coming up, and I'll be pulling against Tennessee. And then, unfortunately, we're getting a ton of SEC action on Saturday, which will break my heart a little bit. But I'll be pulling for the ACC squads coming up on Friday, so those games start off at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Download that Rouse's app. Makes your shopping so much easier. If you spend $35 on your online pickup, you don't have to spend any money on that online pickup. And $35, not a lot of groceries these days. So go ahead and get on by Rouse's anywhere in the southern portion of Louisiana. There's a location near you. Certainly Florida Boulevard near us. My house, Burbank and Lee, is where we do all of our shopping. So appreciate Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Speaking of those Saints, Alvin Kamara ducked out of practice today, and reports are that it is contract-related. We spoke with Luke Johnson about it in the last segment. I'll give you my thoughts on how the Saints need to approach this moving forward when we come back.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about L'Auberge Baton Rouge. You can visit L'Auberge Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. Got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Penn Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in Penn Cash every single week. So visit PennPlaySports.com/cover5. If you're interested in $500 a week, that's where you got to go. PennPlaySports.com/cover5. That's the number 5. You can do that today and register for your chance to play and win. You're not a member? Get the Penn Play app today. L'Auberge Baton Rouge Casino is your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. LSU lands another pitcher out of the transfer portal. So what roster holes remain? We'll discuss. And Saints wrap up minicamp. Talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Mandatory minicamp doesn't yield many massive storylines. If it does, they're going to be negative in nature. Somebody gets carted off the field or gets hurt. That would be a massive story. Nothing on a positive note generally happens bigly in mandatory minicamp. It just is what it is. It's a bunch of guys out there in shorts and helmets doing installs, breaking a sweat, and making sure everybody's up to speed so you can break for summer and come back and get ready for training camp. So at the beginning of Saints mandatory minicamp, the story was, okay, is Marshawn Lattimore going to show up? And he did, and that's good. That's a positive storyline. And at the end of mandatory minicamp, the storyline became, did Alvin Kamara just leave? And the answer was yes. And Dennis Allen was asked, and was he excused? And Dennis Allen said, well, we'll have to talk to him about that. I'm not sure yet. But some reporting has been done, and we talked to Luke Johnson 15 minutes ago, and he corroborated it, that Alvin Kamara left mandatory minicamp today because he wants a new contract. And Kamara is essentially under contract for one more year. The contract voids at the end of this year, and the Saints wouldn't be on the hook for any money. So he's only guaranteed this year, and he wants more than that. And that's understandable. Anybody wants to get as much money out of their current career as they can, especially if you're a running back and understand the shelf life can be really, really short at that position. So Alvin Kamara ducked out and said, we're going to have to work on this. And that'll be a story moving into July and certainly into August. Like, will Alvin Kamara show up to training camp without a new deal? And y'all have listened to me talk about the New Orleans Saints and their strategy this summer a good bit. And the Saints have repeatedly made decisions that did not negatively impact their salary cap beyond basically 2024. A lot of one-year deals, not a lot of contract restructures. They're being patient, unlike what they have shown themselves to be over the last 15 years. And you know that over those 15 years, it was the right thing to do to try to add as many quality pieces as you could and worry about the cost of that later while you had Drew Brees playing at an all-pro level. And they never quite climbed the mountain again, but it doesn't mean what they were doing was flawed. It was the right thing to do. You are not in that situation now, and so I believe now the right thing to do is to hold. Don't leverage yourself down the road and compromise future Saints teams for this current Saints team. And so when Alvin Kamara wants a new contract, I immediately go to, okay, well, what does he currently have? And right now, if you look at Spotrac and see what the situation is with Alvin Kamara, he's essentially carrying a cap number of about $8 million this past season, and it's going to go up to 18 this year. And he wants to be extended beyond that. And I understand wanting as much guaranteed money as you can possibly get right now because long-term contracts don't come to late 20s running backs very often. And I understand that Alvin Kamara may want to point to Christian McCaffrey and go, wait a second, he's about to be 30. He's in his upper 20s. He's 28 years old. And they just gave him a 2-year, $38 million extension. He's extended through 2027. And Clint Kubiak just worked with him, and they put up big numbers, and I'm that guy, so you need to extend me too. And, I don't want to make this call, so instead, we'll just ask Dr. Evil if Alvin Kamara should get a 2-year, $38 million extension.
How about no? Yeah.
That's exactly right. How about no? Because, Alvin, as great as you have been for this Saints franchise, and I mean great, reeling off Pro Bowls, incredible in the screen game and receiving game, big plays on the ground, those are kind of a distant memory. You look at the last 2 seasons when Alvin Kamara was 28 and 27 years old, 1,160 total yards and 1,387 total yards, which is not massively different from his early Pro Bowl years, but the explosive plays are different, and they've been really, really difficult to come by. You're talking about a guy who just hasn't been as explosive, and a lot of that's because he hasn't played as many games. He missed 4 games last year. Some of that was suspension, a little injury. He missed a couple games the year before that. He missed 4 games the year before that is in his 26th year. You compare his production over the last 2 years to Christian McCaffrey. Last year, Christian McCaffrey had 2,023 total yards. He was the offensive player of the year in the league. He had 900 more yards than Alvin Kamara. Even 2 years ago, he had 500 yards more than Alvin Kamara. Over 2 seasons, you're talking about almost 1,400 yards difference over 2 years. These two are not the same. And the 49ers are in win-now mode. They do have a championship roster. They do need to make sure they can spread out money over the life of a contract and keep everybody happy. If you're the Saints, I'm happy that Alvin Kamara's $18 million cap hit this coming year is coming off the books because he's not going to be on the next Saints team that is great. And I'm not compromising that team. I don't know if it's 2025. I don't know if it's 2026, but there is no chance in my estimation as a money manager you can look at Alvin Kamara and justify a return on that kind of investment. If he wants to hold out and I'm Mickey Loomis and I'm even higher up than that, ownership, I'm going, well, if we don't have him, we don't have him. I don't think the Saints are going to be that great this year anyway. You're not going to compromise me by missing a bunch of practice time and forcing my hand when you're not as productive as you were and you're getting older and you're about to be 29 years old, and I'm just not going to fork over $10 million a year for you at that position. There is a chance that Alvin Kamara can be a Pro Bowl back at age 30, 31. There's a chance of that. I'm not paying for it and taking that risk. No, 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 no. And we'll see if this is the first time the Saints can really draw a hard line, because they did exercise the extra year on Derek Carr's contract, and they're wed to him through the 2025 season. But it's not a huge statement to just sign one-year contracts with free agents. That's the bargain shopping that the Saints have done for a while now. It's not a huge statement that you only gave Chase Young 1 year. It would be a huge statement by the Saints brass if Alvin Kamara doesn't show up to practice in a training camp and you just go, all right. That's a guy who's been part of the face of this late era. Cam Jordan, right in the middle of that. Michael Thomas, right in the middle of that. Demario Davis, right in the middle of that. Those guys for sure, but Kamara as well. And if you don't capitulate to what he wants, you're showing that you've made a change in how we're handling things organizationally. And there is just no shot that I am going to fork over a sizable contract and an extension of multiple years to what will be a 31-year-old running back who has missed some time and isn't as explosive as he was at 24. This is where the Saints have to become a new franchise. And understand where you are right now is not where you were in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. It's a whole new world. They're showing bits and pieces of that with their decisions in free agency. This is a guy who's clearly unhappy and is rightfully, this is within Alvin Kamara's rights. I'm not suggesting he's doing anything wrong. His time in the NFL is coming to a close. He doesn't have 7 more years left in this league. He's trying to get every cent he can get, and I do not have any problem with that whatsoever. But the Saints don't have to say, okay, you can either play out this year, you cannot play, whatever the case may be, and then we're going to void the contract, and we're going to move on with you off our books.
So this is something worth noting, though. Nick Underhill says, someone asking him how he thinks it's going to end, he said he doesn't know, but he doesn't think that the dip in talent or ability is what the problem is. It's more so the circumstances of just the Saints offense the last few years.
Absolutely. And it's all part of the equation. And paying Alvin Kamara something around $8 to $10 million at age 31 is just not good business. Guaranteeing that money down the road is not good business. And I don't think the Saints are going to do it. I think the Saints are changing and understanding. And that is going to come at a detriment financially to Alvin Kamara. And there's a part of that stinks because you want what's best for him because of what he's meant to this franchise. But it is what it is, and it is a business. And as much as I've talked to Jeremy Hill and Jacob Hester and Brandon Taylor and a lot of guys that I've worked with that have played in that league, 95% of the guys in that locker room understand this. They understand that they are an employee. They understand, if you want to be as incredibly cynical, that they are a piece of meat and that there are financial decisions that go over the relationship that you have or what you did 5 years ago. It just is. And I think the Saints are not going to do this for Alvin Kamara, but it is certainly within his right to try to force their hand. We'll see as it unfolds. I think it's an interesting storyline. If you're looking for our Saints content, you can always find it on YouTube. Hunt on Saints, all year round. Subscribe to it. You can get those videos sent right to your homepage on YouTube. We'll come back, get you a U.S. Open leaderboard update and some take it or leave it, and we'll be done. It's a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has the fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to the championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. That's $1,000 in bonus bets if that first bet doesn't cash. It's a great deal. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with LeBears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When things heat up, you don't just want a cold one. You want the coldest one. The cold lagered, cold filtered, cold packaged one. Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app.
Sandgriff, join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rafino's on Highland Road. We'll get you up to date on what's going on at the U.S. Open, and it's the opening day of the College World Series. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Rafino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The NBA Finals are on ESPN Radio. Can the Mavericks avoid the sweep? That will be tomorrow night at 7:30. Then we've also got the MLB on ESPN Radio, the Red Sox and Yankees, the greatest rivalry in the MLB. Saturday at 6:15 and Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
No love for Cubs Cardinals there?
Well, Hunt, I absolutely understand that the Cubs-Cardinals is one of the best rivalries, but the Red Sox and Yankees is the most storied rivalry in baseball. There's no questioning that.
I'm not going to question that.
I
just wanted to interject.
No, I understand. But the Cubs stink right now, so I don't want to talk about it.
They won last night.
Yeah, they stink.
Did you see the game last night?
Yeah.
It was horribly unsettling, and they still won. But
it's
you got a two-run lead going to the ninth. Bottom of the order for Tampa's coming up, and Hector Nervous can't get him out. You got second and third, one. It's just a total disaster, and he found a way out.
The Cubs don't have a closer. They don't have any RBIs or home runs in the lineup for some reason, even though Cody Bellinger and Seiya Suzuki are healthy.
Bellinger hit a 3-run homer yesterday.
He did.
That helped.
He did. That helps. But and then the relief might have the worst relief pitching core in the in baseball at this point, besides the White Sox, of course. City of Chicago is just
they don't count. Update from the U.S. Open. Same leaderboard I gave you just a few minutes back. Patrick Cantley, 65 in the opening round. He leads at 5 under par. Ludwig Oberg shot 4 under. He is solo second place. Matthew Pavon is solo third at 3 under. Tony Finau and Rory McIlroy at 2 under par. Finau is done. McIlroy through 7 holes on the day. Tiger Woods shot, I believe, 4 over par today.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 over par today. And Scotty Scheffler is out there on the course right now, and he stands at
1 over.
1 over par. That is correct.
Yep.
Tied with a few others like Cam Smith, Ricky Fowler, Siwoo Kim, to name just a few. So they play on from Pinehurst up there in North Carolina. All right, back, take it or leave it.
All right, first the one here. Kevin Gossman, Aaron Nola, and Paul Skeens combined for 3 beauties this week. Trio fired 22 1/3 shutout innings with 23 strikeouts and 12 hits allowed. LSU has the best starting pitching trio in the major league.
Whoa.
Take it or leave it.
Man, I don't know. I mean, Vandy has Sonny Gray, who's been great. Walker Buehler, I think, is hurt. David Price is about done. So I'm trying to think. Do I know any other trios?
There's got to be some other ones, but
there
I just
are.
can't
But I
think of
can't.
them.
I mean, like A&M had like Daniel Mingden and Michael Waka, but that's not as good. I mean, LSU might have the best one. I could certainly make that case. There was a time there where Stetson had Corey Kluber and Jacob deGrom, but I don't know who their third would be if they had one. So as far as trios go, you're hard to beat that one. I mean, Nola and Gosman were up there in strikeouts last year, and then Skeens is a phenom. So I think I feel comfortable suggesting that LSU has the best starting pitching trio of anybody in the league. Because Trevor Bauer is not in the league with Garrett Cole. You could make some UCLA stuff there, but I think LSU's got it, so I'll take it.
All right, next one here. The New England Patriots inducted Tom Brady into their Hall of Fame and also retired his number in a ceremony last night at Gillette Stadium. For what it's worth, it was a packed house, unsurprisingly. But doing this in July instead of September, take it or leave it.
You know, that I think about it, I'll take it. I mean, it's an odd time, but do you want to like pigeonhole that into a halftime of a game? Do you want to pigeon that hole into a preseason game? I think this summer there's not much going on other than the Red Sox playing. Well, I shouldn't say that in Boston. The Celtics are in the finals, and they actually were playing last night, so that's not great.
Interesting.
But look, Tom Brady owns that town. The Patriots are, I think, the boss there. And I think if he's going to show up and do something, they're going to back it out anyway. So now that I think about it, they could have done a better job of getting it away from the NBA Finals and planning that out. But other than that, I think it was good. So that's good on the Patriots. That's good stuff.
Also worth noting that they will be revealing a 12-foot statue of Tom Brady I think it will be during the season. So they'll have another thing. I don't know if it's going to be a whole
won't be Tom Brady's last moment in Gillette.
Certainly not. All right, moving on. There are rumors that the Lakers, in fact, I think I just saw on ESPN that the Lakers will be interviewing J.J. Redick for their head coaching job. Redick coaching LeBron and company. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I guess I'll take it. We've seen a lot of guys go from like playing to broadcasting to coaching pretty quickly. I don't feel like that's something that can't be done. Redick's awesome on ESPN. He obviously played a long time for a lot of different teams, a lot of different coaches. He's got a great relationship with LeBron, which obviously matters a ton when you're coaching LeBron's team. I have no idea if he'd be good at it or not. There's just no way for me to know that. But it's not like this is something that's like completely foreign to the sport. We see guys doing this all the time.
Yeah, it's just interesting though because Jason Kidd did it, and he didn't. I don't know if he did broadcasting, but he did do. I think he started out as an assistant for a few years at least. And Redick, I don't think has coached at all at any level. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles the rigors of coaching an NBA team. And I'm sure he'll be able to draw up plays and all that. But it'll just be interesting how he would be able to handle being a head coach in the NBA. Moving on. Scotty Scheffler, as we mentioned earlier, is 1 over through 8 now, I believe, in his first round of the U.S. Open. That is 6 shots off of the current leader, Patrick Cantlay. You would take the field over Scheffler right now. Take it or leave it.
I would take it. Yeah, I would take the field. There's a lot of guys that are playing well above, that are a lot above him at this point. He's very much in the golf tournament at 1 over par, but I would take the field. It's difficult for me to not take the field, and on day one, I'm almost always going to take the field. Tiger was the one that would make you think twice about it, and I guess Scotty's the closest that we've had since then. But especially now that he's 6 shots back, and you got some really good players who played great rounds today. This is going to be a tournament where guys fall back, not one where guys chase, because the golf course is really hard. But I would definitely take the field at this point over Scotty. So we'll see. I'm excited for a good weekend of golf up there at Pinehurst. It's cool when they play a tournament at a place that you can go play. I unfortunately wasn't able to go play a couple years ago when all my friends went because I was proposing, but that was more important than playing golf. So great weekend for me, but a great weekend for them too. I'll get to Pinehurst one of these days. But it's been a great test today, and I would anticipate that will continue throughout the weekend. All right, tomorrow's show, I'm excited for it. Preston Guy is going to talk some football with us. Going to go up to Washington, D.C. as well. There's a piece written up there on ESPN.com about the Commanders, talking about Jaden Daniels and his first kind of offseason with the team. They had some quotes from him, some quotes from some of his teammates as well. So we'll check in on the Commanders and see how Jaden's doing in his first offseason. So some thoughts on the College World Series as well. We'll have plenty to get to on tomorrow's show. Shout out to the folks over at Rouse's for bringing you our Thursday shows. Get on by Rouse's for your weekend grocery shopping. Always a great idea to shop over at Rouse's. Missed any of today's show, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. Certainly on YouTube as well. Heard some sound from Chris Olave at 1 o'clock. Basketball recruiting. LSU's basketball recruiting going well from a high school perspective based on multiple different outlets' thoughts on it. Paul Mainieri's quotes on going to South Carolina. He's about to be introduced in, I think, 5 minutes from now over in Columbia. Big 12, going to be the All-State 12. Apparently, they're going to be paid handsomely for that. Luke Johnson talking Saints, College World Series preview, and my thoughts on Alvin Kamara's contract situation. All that is on demand. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further View. We're back tomorrow. Same time, same place. The Hunt Palmer Show.